Hey everyone, it's Flynn Patrick once again. We are back with another video after a 10-day break. I am super excited to be back. We are getting so much closer to basketball season, and in this video, we need to talk about Zion Williamson. Good golly gee willikers, this man is an absolute force of nature. This young man has set the college basketball world on fire. There is zero doubt about it. And I believe that not only could he be the top pick in the upcoming 2019 NBA draft, but I also believe when it's all said and done, he could be one of the top prospects of the 2010s decade when we look back in retrospect. Now, before some watching this video will say that I'm jumping on the bandwagon, I want to be very clear. I've had Zion Williamson as the #1 overall prospect in the 2019 draft since June, since right after the 2018 NBA draft. And this was not a popular opinion at the time, but there are some good reasons that I've had Zion as the #1 overall prospect since June. And good golly gee willikers, in these preseason games, he has completely surpassed my expectations, and his potential is even higher than I originally thought it was. This man has the potential to change the NBA. He is listed at 6'7", 285 pounds. Now, to be fair, he's probably playing closer to around 270 to 275 right now. But let's compare. Taylor Lewan, who is the highest paid offensive tackle currently in the NFL and the starting left tackle for my favorite NFL team, the Tennessee Titans, he is 6'8", 315 pounds. And he is playing a position in the NFL where the players generally weigh the most of any position. For comparison's sake, Zion is only an inch shorter, and he is listed at just 30 pounds lighter than the highest paid NFL offensive tackle. And this is an NBA player with the athleticism and agility of a player who weighs 220 pounds. This is absolutely ridiculous. The NBA has never seen anything like this. Forget the Charles Barkley comparisons, forget the Larry Johnson comparisons, although I will say if there is one player who is closest in comparison to Zion, I would say Larry Johnson is probably the closest, who was the #1 pick in the 1991 NBA draft. Either way, this is a player who there is just absolutely no comparison for. This player's skill level and ability is unprecedented, and all eyes are going to be on him over the next 10 months leading up to the 2019 NBA draft. So in this video, I'm going to give 3 reasons why I think Zion Williamson is currently the unquestioned #1 overall prospect in the 2019 NBA draft. My #1 reason is this is going to be, in my opinion, and to be clear, in my early opinion, a weak overall draft. I think Zion and RJ Barrett are by far the top 2 prospects in this upcoming draft. I think Cameron Reddish has potential. I think Sekoyo Dolimboya, excuse me if I mispronounced that, has a lot of potential as well. But that being said, in terms of the overall depth of this class, there isn't a lot of competition. I think players who are going to be late lottery picks in this upcoming draft probably wouldn't have even been first round picks last year. So not only does this class not have a lot of depth currently, but I also don't think it's very top heavy either. So enter Zion, because even when looking at him before he gained all this weight and before he's now a 275 pound force of nature, I had him listed around 255, 260 pounds, and even at that playing weight, his potential was just ridiculous. There were questions, there are still questions, but my point is that Zion has some room to make mistakes, because even if he does make a lot of mistakes, the thing is, other than RJ Barrett and potentially Cameron Reddish, and they all happen to be on the same team, maybe Sekoyo Dolimboya, if he happens to live up to his potential, but there's just not a lot of competition for that top spot right now. And I think that this gives Zion some room to grow and to make mistakes, because the positive aspects of his game are just so ridiculous right now. Just based on potential alone, he's gonna be a top 5 pick next year, and I would be very, very shocked if he fell out of the top 3. And there's still a lot of time for things to change. I'm sure there's going to be some prospects like Zaire Smith last year who come out of nowhere to become potential lottery picks. I think that there are some talented players in this upcoming class. Just from an early impression, I think that Zion's potential combined with, I just don't think this class is very deep or top heavy right now. This gives Zion some leeway to make mistakes. My number 2 overall reason that I have Zion as the top overall pick right now is this has just never happened in NBA history. We have never seen a player play at this weight, at this height, with the athleticism, with the surprisingly deceptive ball handling and playmaking, with the ridiculous layup package that is eventually going to come in NBA 2K. We have never seen anything like this in a potential NBA draft prospect. And not only that, but he just turned 18. Larry Johnson, for comparison, had a somewhat similar game at 250 pounds, and he was the number 1 overall pick in 1991, but he was also 22 years old when he was drafted, whereas Zion is still going to be 18 years old at the time of the 2019 NBA draft, and he will not be turning 19 until next July, which means his whole rookie season, he will still be a teenager. That is ridiculous, that is absurd. Just watching these highlights, just watching the games, just watching the ridiculous plays that this man has made in just 3 outings, it has the NBA Twitter on fire. It has the NBA fans talking. Anyone that knows anything about basketball knows that watching this is something that we have just never seen before. There is one player in the NBA currently that is listed at a higher playing weight than Zion is listed at currently, and that is the 7-foot Steven Adams for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that is a down low, low post center. This is a player who has an expanded game. He can play on the perimeter. Yes, he needs to work on his jump shot. Yes, that is a very real thing that is going to have to develop. But that being said, the way I see it, if Ben Simmons doesn't have a jump shot right now with the way Zion is playing, he does not have to have one right now either, but he has shown that he can at least hit open shots, and that within a year or 2, even though he might not be Stephen Curry by any means, I also see him as a player that you're not going to want to leave open. That being said, he does have to work on his shot. I think him going to a school like Duke was definitely the right decision. That shows that he has the confidence in himself to star on the biggest blue blood college basketball program of them all, and the results, even though it is in early preseason games against competition that isn't the greatest, it looks like he made the right decision right now. There was a lot of talk of him going to Clemson. There just would have been a lot of excuses had he gone to Clemson and he played like this, whereas he's playing for Duke at the highest level for Coach K in the blue blood program, and he is able to showcase his skills for an extremely talented team, and there's not going to be a lot of excuses there from fans. My final reason I have Zion Williamson as the top prospect in this draft is he is athletic, but he is built to last. As a kid growing up, I was a fan of the Memphis Tigers when Coach Calipari was still coaching them. I remember watching Derrick Rose. I was a big fan of Derrick Rose growing up. I remember being a young kid watching highlights of him in high school in the very early days of YouTube, and I was just in awe of Derrick Rose's athleticism and ability for a player that young. I had never seen anything like it, and he definitely proved that that potential was for real in the early days of his NBA playing career, becoming the youngest MVP of all time. That being said, in retrospect, you can see how a player who played like Rose with his build could have eventually had the injury problems that he did, and he's in the NBA still, thankfully, but he is obviously not the same player that he used to be, as he is in his early 30s now, and he is just not what he was. Watching Zion in the early stages of his career, he's athletic, but he also has the build to where I believe that athleticism can parlay into a long NBA career as a high-level player, potentially going into his 30s. He has ridiculous rebounding ability, but he also has a gracefulness to go along with the explosiveness, to where he has that NFL build and he knows how to use his body at such an early age. His basketball IQ is clearly through the roofs for a player who is just 18 years old. Everyone was surprised, including myself, on how his playmaking was. That was a part of his game that wasn't really talked about. We saw in the early stages of this preseason just how much of an underrated playmaker Zion is. So right now, really the only threat I see to Zion as the #1 pick is RJ Barrett. I think RJ Barrett is going to be Andrew Wiggins with a better jump shot, and the stock on Andrew Wiggins is really low right now, so that might sound like an insult, but really Andrew Wiggins with a better jump shot is a top 25 to 30 player in the NBA, so that is a very high praise from myself to RJ Barrett's game. At worst, he's going to be a role player that helps his team win. The chances of Zion busting are really, really low, and I think at worst, with his skills barring injury, he's a top 100 player. At best, if he develops his jump shot, if he continues developing his playmaking skills, if he continues developing the ridiculous rebounding ability, if he continues developing that potential all-time 2K layup package he has, holy macaroni, good golly gee willikers, the NBA is not going to know what hit them, and it is going to be a wild ride up the mountain of Zion. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm really excited to see how Zion Williamson's career goes. I think that he is going to do great things at Duke, and I think barring injury, I would be shocked, honestly, if he falls out of the top 2. I can see RJ Barrett potentially being the #1 pick depending on the team that is picking, but I do not think Zion Williamson is falling outside of the top 2 in this upcoming draft. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Flynn Patrick. Basketball Infinite will be back with more content shortly.